Imagine this is your beloved plant and it's unfortunately dying. It's been stuck in a cupboard for the last few months, and while you could add water to try bring it back to life, that doesn't solve the core problem, which is it wasn't getting enough sunlight. In fact, you adding water might actually make it worse. And in the same way with your editing career, it's important you find out what the actual problem is before you try putting in a ton of hours into solving a problem that doesn't exist. So what is the sunlight and the water in your editing career, and how do you know which one you need to focus on? Well, I found that there's three main components, and it's only when you have all three of these components, these three pillars in place, that you actually start progressing. The first pillar is we need to make sure that your editing ability isn't just good, but it goes from good to great. Now, you will hear again and again other editing gurus or YouTubers telling you that it doesn't really matter about how cool your effects are because storytelling is what matters. And don't get me wrong, storytelling is important, but having good visuals 1,000,000% helps you in your career. Because let's say you were looking at two different editors. If you had to check their portfolios within the next minute and you see one of them has better visuals than the other, who do you assume will have the better storytelling? It's sort of just implied when someone has better visuals that the rest of their editing is also good. Now, don't get me wrong, there are times where editors have really crappy storytelling and really crappy cutting, but they've just maxed out their visuals. But in general, editors who can make better visuals can also cut better and can also pace better, can also tell stories better. But how do you actually make sure that your editing ability is up to where these high-paying clients want? Well, I've broken it down into two steps. The first step is actually consuming good edits within the niche that you're trying to edit in. The reason being, the human brain cannot create new outputs without previous inputs. So by having a reference of what good editing looks like, it becomes a lot easier for you to now go into your software and create something good off the back of that. Like, try telling a kid from some remote island that he needs to draw an iPad. He would never be able to draw that iPad because he's never seen what an iPad looks like. And in the same way, you need to see what good edits look like in your niche before actually going ahead and trying to edit it. And the second way that you improve your editing as quickly as possible is you focus less on adding animations and movement, but more on design. Design is the intentional arrangement of elements in a scene to look both visually appealing while also being functional. Functional meaning that they actually serve the purpose that they have within a video to make the video clearer and more engaging. The reason I tell editors to focus on improving their visuals is because even if you're going for clients that have less editing, you will actually be able to charge more for the same amount of work just because you can edit better, even if you're not exercising that skill. Like, there's reaction videos that I edit now where I'm getting paid $1,300 for videos that take me 1 day to edit. Now, bear in mind, that's 1.3K for one video. I used to do the exact same work, the same level of editing, the same amount of, in fact, I used to take longer, for about $200 a video only a few years back. So simply being someone who can edit better, but the client wants them to edit simpler, will get you paid more than someone who edits simple because that's all they can do. But of course, you're not going to get to this point in your career where you're charging thousands per video without putting the reps in. And that's why the second pillar of you having a successful editing career is making sure you can edit fast. Now, this sounds super obvious, so I guess I'll just fix my workflow. But the problem is editors approach this the wrong way. They fall into this dichotomy where either they improve their editing and their speed goes down, or their edits go down and they try edit faster. The truth is, with the age-old argument of quality or quantity, you need both. You need to be able to edit fast and you need your quality to be up there. So how do you actually achieve that? It's by realizing that the goal of becoming faster at editing isn't so that you can spend less time on videos. I've spoken and coached a lot of editors, and a problem they often come to me with is, this video, I didn't really try on it because I didn't have the time, or I wasn't getting paid enough to put in that much time. So then I asked them, if you did take that time, do you think the animation could have been better? And they obviously say yes, and I just tell them, you probably lost a few $1,000s just because of that mistake. Because now that you've half-assed this animation, it means the work you continue to show future clients is just that little bit worse. So if you're stuck in the cycle of having cheap clients, not being able to get more expensive guys, it's because you have to actually treat lower paying guys like higher paying clients in order to use that work to attract even more higher paying clients. And trying to get a video done as quickly as possible when you're still improving your animations and you're trying something new, it's like trying to speedrun a level in a game that you haven't even played before. Like if you look at these speedrunners that basically try to finish a game as quickly as possible, first time round, they're just going through it slowly at a normal pace. Maybe second time round, they even go even slower to really figure out, are there any routes that they could reconsider? And after 5, 10, 15, 20 times, now they're trying to pick up the pace in the round. So in terms of how you implement this while you're editing, be completely fine with taking as long as you need when you're actually trying a new animation. Now, don't spend time just for the sake of it, but if you realize there's a mistake in the animation, or you think this thing could be a little bit better, or you have another new idea, it's okay to just implement it. So forget about time for a moment, just really build on that idea that you've gotten. And while it might take 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times longer than you expected for this one animation, it means that the next time you do it, it will take half the time. Like think back to the best animation you've ever made. And now ask yourself, if you had to redo that animation, do you think it would take the same amount of time or a lot less? Because you will naturally get faster the more times you do something. And once something's become pretty much second nature to you, that's when you really start becoming ruthless with saving time. Presets, automations, macros, reusing project files. That sort of side comes after you've actually figured out how to make the edit look good in the first place. So now that you're editing better, how do you actually make sure you're making more money throughout this entire process? Well, that's where the third pillar comes in, which is client acquisition. This is your ability to get clients. And there's a very easy way to know whether this is a pillar that you need to be focusing on. I call it the work hierarchy, which is a hierarchy of what you should be working on. At the top of this list is client work. And the reason nothing precedents client work is because as soon as you have someone paying you, that becomes the practice. You no longer need to do practice edits because you practice on the client videos. Best case scenario, you should be trying to get as much client work as possible so that basically any time you have is served for client work. But what happens if you don't have enough client work to fill your time? Well, that's where paid trials come in. This is where someone gives you a trial, maybe a first project or a short part of the video, and they pay you maybe 10%, 20%, 30% of the video to just test you out. If you don't have client work at that moment, or you aren't full with client work, you do paid trials. If you don't have paid trials, you do free trials. If you don't have free trials, you do re-edits, where you download footage from YouTube and re-edit it. Notice how there's always something to work on. If you ever have free time, you look at this work hierarchy and you ask yourself, what is the highest thing on this hierarchy that I can fill up my time with? So if you are at a point right now where you do not have your full time filled up with client work, like you have a day, half a day where you're just sitting there wondering what to do, client acquisition is the constraint for you. This means you need to be focusing on those inputs of outreach and focusing on inbound systems where you're posting your work and able to actually traffic people towards you so that you can fix this client problem. And I get that getting clients, especially higher paying guys who are consistent, can be super hard. So what I've done in the description, I've added this DM case study where it's me closing a $1,900 per video client, and I just give you my entire DMs with him. So I show you how I open the messages, how I get the prices, and how I get him to agree, and how I get him to pay up front. So I've given that whole thing in the description. It's the $1,900 case study. You can go get that for free. So go get that now, and once you've done that, you can go watch this video here, which basically just breaks down how I actually figured out what niche I'm going to get into, so you can start using these client systems in the niche that you actually enjoy.